Hello everyone. So I just wanted to do a quick overview of the 2016-2017 VAIO S. And I just wanted to start off by pointing out that this is not a Sony. Sony has sold off VAIO about, I think a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years now. Now this is the second VAIO I'm reviewing. The first was the VAIO Z Canvas. And basically, a little history between me and Sony. And basically Sony is probably one of my favorite companies. And they're actually becoming less so because of this specific reason, and that is, for a long time they were willing to try all kinds of crazy things. For example, back in the day they released that netbook, I forget what it's called, but it was the only netbook. It was, I think, about $2,000 at a 1080p screen. You know, when every other netbook was a couple $100, this thing was $2,000. And no matter what market or history or product, they always would just try something totally ridiculous, something that was extremely expensive, something that no one would buy, and often this was actually a reason why Sony lost a lot of money. But this is something I really respect. It's something that allows you to try different and new things, and it's hard to know what's right without just trying something crazy. And this laptop still continues that line. For example, you look at it right now and you say, what do you mean this is just a, kind of like a ultralight ultrabook? So what's special about this? And for example, the VAIO Pro 13, when Sony still owned them, looked almost exactly like this. So what is the difference? The difference is that, unlike the VAIO Pro 13, which had 2 USB ports and HDMI, this computer has 3 USB ports, so 2 on this side, and 1 more here, along with HDMI, Ethernet port, VGA, obviously a headphone jack, and an SD card slot. Now, you showed me a laptop that weighs just over 2 pounds, that is ultra sleek, ultra thin, and has all these ports. I don't think you can. And this is why VAIO is awesome. They make things like this. This tiny, super sleek computer can plug in any monitor or projector made in the last 25 years, if not 30. And it can use any device, mouse, USB hard drive, 2 USB hard drives if you need, and they will all work at the same time. I mean, like, to me, this matters above all. I know a lot of people don't care. Maybe this doesn't matter at all. But the fact that it literally has all these connectivity options is incredible. A computer that weighs almost nothing. It's hard to describe how little this weighs. I'm holding this with 3 fingers, and there's almost no stress in my hand. I mean, it almost feels like a plastic toy demo in like a mall. Anyone who's held this computer, they're like blown away by how light it is. It's simply incredible, and it really sacrifices almost nothing. They even actually brought back these actual touch physical buttons on the touchpad. I'm a big fan of this. I also like the fact that the touchpad is smaller. The trend these days is to make a huge touchpad, but I never really saw the point in that. Small touchpad always worked fine for me. I never cared for the click pad as to double click or right click. I would either double tap or tap with 2 fingers for right click. So these buttons just kind of reduce the chance of error. If I'm doing something important and I don't want to accidentally screw up with a click pad or make any kind of mistake, I can use these buttons and be 100% sure that the task that I wanted to do is being accomplished. Now, probably the one and only compromise in this computer is the battery life, which seems to be about 4 to maybe 5 hours. If you really squeeze it out, you could probably get like 6 or 7. But in some ways, I'm willing to accept this considering all the other things this has. I really can't stand the fact that all the new computers are light, thin, and they're just missing a whole bunch of ports, features, and pretty much they're stripped down. This computer is ready to do real work in any environment. And it's not cheap. VAIO has never been cheap, especially if you're getting the expensive models, which you really should be, because the budget VAIOs have always been, a bit subpar, because you're essentially buying a premium product from a premium company, but you're going cheap. You never want to do that in my book. Now, everything else, it's pretty much the same. The only thing that's really missing is the Sony logo. The computer is still ridiculously thin, ridiculously light. It even has features such as, obviously I'm not going to test this, but You may have noticed, essentially, it's said that if you put a pen under the screen and you close the screen over it, the computer will actually bend around the pen. That way you will not break the screen. And in many ways, VAIO's design philosophy has always been kind of the exact opposite of Lenovo ThinkPad, which I also love. But instead of being bulky, easy to repair, and just kind of tough in all situations, it applies that similar philosophy, but to extremely thin, elegant, maybe not so tough in terms of if you're going to drop it, but they've always still been tough, and they've been tough in a different way. Instead of being rigid, they've always been a bit more bendy and flexible. So when you drop this thing, it's not going to hit something like a rock. It's going to kind of bounce off of things, and it's very different from something that Lenovo offers. Now, this computer is about $1,500 with 2-year accidental damage warranty. It's the 256 gig SSD with 8 gigs of RAM and i7, and Windows 10 Pro. I think that's a pretty good price. Considering it has the accidental damage warranty, it really makes, it makes the deal. You're obviously not looking to buy a VAIO and go cheap. This is not a cheap computer, so you expect to pay something, but you expect to also get something. And I think this delivers. I can't really say anything about its long-term ability or how long it'll last, but in my experience, every VAIO I've had has lasted a very long time. And I've only purchased the most expensive premium VAIOs. I cannot comment on the cheap budget ones, from which I've heard from many people who've had a million issues. And people may even complain that, VAIO uses a lot of proprietary parts. They're not always the easiest to take apart, but this kind of goes in their design philosophy. They're not creating a normal product. They're trying to go above and beyond. And that's what you're paying for. And this computer does that. And as long as it does that, I'm happy to pay. If this was the same as the VAIO Pro 13 with just 2 USBs and an HDMI, I really don't see what the point of getting this would be. Sure, it's still light, but I want a computer that will work anywhere, in any situation, and plug into any device or port that I need. And this is it.